sentence, at least you get your 3. And look at I say that it's absolutely necessary, but look, is it justifying a bullet point when we only have 5?
Is there something missing completely from what we're talking about here? And it's one of the things that makes Dubai very attractive to me, and I think to a lot of other people. And it's just that vision thing, you know, that there is somebody leading the place who has a vision, a large part of which has been fulfilled already. That's different from New York. It's different from London. It's something that potentially defines very widely the difference between Dubai and other places.
Except we're talking about Wall Street, like because we're
more than any of the
Okay.
Would that vision necessarily create a hub?
Well, drive it. I mean, it's the sort of.
The other 4 or 5 things apply to anywhere.
Yeah, it does. It ties into making it that. Yeah. So that leadership and the vision there that.
Adds the magic to the other.
Okay, so we have here then. So our first one is more effective legal, regulatory, and we want to put the governance within there. But you think it will fit in there automatically? It shouldn't be sitting by itself.
I think because one leads to the other.
Yeah.
You know, the actual legal and the regulatory side almost causes the governance.
Yeah. And again, I think that's very much to attract investors here, to make them feel that their money is safe here, that there's international standards been applied, so therefore this is as good a place to do business as going anywhere else. So it makes Dubai or any region too equally as competitive. Because if those issues are not in place, then why not put their money in New York or in London or somewhere else? World-class infrastructure, transportation, telecoms, IT, the ease of access to all of that. The English-speaking, we think this is definitely necessary to make it become a global hub, as in if you're kind of going around the world. Financially, then the link between
the language of business around the world is English.
The link between East and West also, but the need then to also be looking at 24-hour business, whereby it'll fit in with other. But it's 24 hour. It's not really.
It's not really one that should be in the top 5. I just mentioned it in the past.
But 24-hour business. I mean, how many desks are open 24 hours globally?
Because there are, but they're run by computers more than
people.
But
But
if there's no computer in the
But
Middle
you can't
East,
trade here.
okay.
So right, yeah. And then also the possibility of someday having to look at a standardization of days. Because and even within the region, because Saudi is operating, they're off on Thursday, Friday.
Yeah.
So even within the region, we don't have a good, solid working week. Need to attract, retain, and
integrate much.
Your time is up.
But again, it's
Need to be outnumbered by in your own country.
I'm
going to just call up
at the 5 characteristics that are needed for any Middle East city to claim the status of the likes of Wall Street. So that's what we were looking at, and looking at the things that we desperately need to put in place to make sure that we can compete on that level. The ones that we were mentioned here were things like English speaking, recourse to the law, effective regulation, world-class infrastructure, and social tolerance. So we had quite a discussion, as you can imagine, a lively discussion about this. And we came up with a global economic hub, or a global Wall Street type, and that goes without question. We agreed on that. Regulatory system, definitely, it demands better regulation to be here, but more effective regulation, and again, not to over-regulate. There was certainly a feeling that while we have a wonderful example here with the DIFC, that a lot of companies were actually leaving the DIFC and have left along over the years, sometimes because of over-regulation. So to really step back and actually look at more effective regulation that works for the people in place here, and indeed for the investors you're trying to attract. And also the corporate governance issue, that's something that has to be in place. But again, if you have an effective legal system and you've got a strong regulatory system, that corporate governance in one way will actually take care of itself. And all of this to actually attract business into the region, to keep business here, to make sure that investors feel that their money is safe and that it's a good place to be, rather than move to London, to New York, or indeed to any other area. The second item we thought was of importance was world-class infrastructure, and indeed something we're seeing in many of the hubs in this region here. I think all the governments have put a lot of emphasis on that, bringing in world-class infrastructure in likes of transportation, telecoms, IT. This is absolutely essential. And again, that ease of access for everybody to move around, particularly when it comes to financial markets, the technical side and the IT and the telecom support that has to be put in the way everybody can be trading and can be monitoring on an international level 24 hours a day. Absolutely essential. English speaking, without a doubt. I think it's something that we've all recognized that English is the language of business around the world, and if you want to be an international player and you're going to be dealing from time to time and indeed throughout all of your business, you have to be looking ahead and actually be conducting that business in English. The other issues we looked at too were perhaps even standardizing the working days regionally and maybe eventually coming onto a standard working week throughout the year. We have, of course, the week ending on a Wednesday in Saudi Arabia, and again starting on a Saturday there, whereby we've got other days here. So actually the regional hub here is not integrated in terms of actually the days you can conduct your business. So perhaps they need to be looking at that, and also the ability to be able to conduct business 24 hours a day here. The computerized trading in this region, I don't believe, is ticking over 24 hours, and this is something I think as an international hub would need to be really established here as well. Human capital we found is something that tends to be lacking, that we need to pay more attention to, and not just it's about attracting, it's about retaining, and indeed it's about sustaining human capital here. On a survey recently on the 500 top universities in the world, none of them is a Middle East university. They don't rank in terms of the top 500. Now that's something that will take time to change here, but again, we felt that you have to go back to grassroots education to begin to build an economic structure or educational structure within the region that starts at a very junior level and actually goes on to that. And it's not good enough to be bringing the Harvards and the INSEADs of the world into this region. It's time perhaps to be growing a culture here, and hopefully KAUST in Saudi Arabia might be one of the first examples of that, whereby people from all over the world will actually begin to come to this region. But I think it's going to take a while before we have perhaps the top MBA programs coming out of an Arab or a Middle Eastern university, and that's something I think we felt was very, very necessary. Also attracting that human capital here, we built into that to the social tolerance level of it, whereby people might want to come to a city like Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Bahrain, maybe a little bit faster right now than they might want to settle in Saudi if Saudi wanted to become a financial hub. So it is something that people will take into consideration, and while business people may come and happily do their business here, they still have their families that have to go to school, their wives have to have a comfortable existence, and they have to be able to work as well. So something like that was also very important. The other thing too, the issue of a bit of an us and them mentality that unfortunately happens in this region within the business context, and probably more within social and personal context, where people come here to this region and very often feel like it is an us and them mentality, and trying to break down those barriers to actually be able to, even on a social level, engage more with the host country. And maybe one way of doing that too would be, which we've heard talk about from time to time, is to grow that path to citizenship here, that may make people feel a lot more involved and actually feel some sense of ownership here, whereby it becomes their adopted country and indeed somewhere they want to spend a lot longer time here and doing business. Finally, I think very much we're hearing a slogan from areas like Bahrain, business-friendly Bahrain, and again this maybe ties into the regulation, the bureaucracy, the red tape that comes from many of the businesses in many of the cities around the region, that everyone's really got to strive in terms of that bureaucracy, in terms of the legal structures and the regulatory structures, to actually make it a very business-friendly place, whereby people will want to come, and that ease of doing business, the transparency that's going to be there, the fact that they know their money is safe, that they're actually valued within that environment, I think is very, very important. And finally, the visionary outlook and the leadership prospects that we looked at among some of the cities in the region, and indeed there was a bit of a vote for Dubai on that one, looking ahead for the future, that it has actually got a long-term vision. It's got a leader here that is actually probably what's driving business to the region, and we hope it will be what will sustain business and keep it there. Thank you so much.